So the fourth and final part of our Nutrition 101 course is module number 4, nutritional supplements, nutritional supplementation. And again, as our fourth module, one of the modules you'll definitely want to have watched prior to this one is understanding the roles of macronutrients. That was our first module. The middle two, understanding micronutrients and understanding principles of nutrient timing, also be pretty helpful for this one. I always recommend that this is the fourth one for students if I can make a recommendation. Pretty essential that you've at least seen the first one on macronutrition, and you'll get more out of this one if you've actually seen all three that precede it. So let's start with, I'm going to actually just call it as it is, a little bit of sarcasm at the basic level. Let's think of nutritional supplementation as the multi-billion-dollar industry that is, for the most part, providing strategically and sometimes ethically questionable sources of macronutrient and micronutrient value to people that are cleverly marketed. Not always just for the sake of convenience, but also saying, this is something that's going to change your life and make you better at everything. If you're an athlete, supplements that you're taking, if you're even questioning whether or not you should be taking a supplement, you should be thinking about whether or not it's something that's actually going to support the demand of your athletic lifestyle. If it's something you genuinely need, something that you cannot match with a diet alone. I'm not saying there's no need for it. I'm not even trying to be skeptical here, but I am giving you fair warning that there's just so much out there when it comes to the marketing and the clever marketing of nutritional supplementation that it's really, really kind of hard to see through the weeds sometimes. And if you're going to kind of go down that road, please do your research. And as always, I'm here to help you with that kind of stuff if you're interested. So let's categorize nutritional supplementation into two different types. We'll talk about how they can basically boost your nutrient intake, whether that's at the micronutrient level or the macronutrient level. And we'll start with the macronutrient level because that's probably the more common form, especially amongst student athletes who are always trying to get a little bigger, stronger, faster, and take advantage of everything they can. So if we look at macronutrient supplementation, let's start with why somebody might be interested in it. Now, really, at the bare bones level, this is so that we can increase our daily energy intake. Macronutrient supplementation is not supposed to be a meal replacement. It is supposed to be in addition to. If we're looking to increase the total amount of energy in a day, it doesn't really make sense that we remove one meal and then replace it with some sort of macronutrient shake. And at the end of the day, we just end up breaking even on the total amount of energy in. This is probably the most commonly form of macronutrient supplementation, being something like a protein shake or a weight gaining shake. A calorie dense form of a macronutrient supplement, though, it could be high fat, it could also be high carbohydrate. But the most common that we see, especially in high school student athletes, is that kind of protein shake. It's got 30 or 40 grams of complete protein, and you see athletes walking around shaking up some powder in water in a little shaker cup when they finish a workout, so that they can add an extra 150, 200 calories of energy to their daily, and in the form of those essential amino acids for the most part. So in many cases, the ingredients in these type of supplements are less natural. They're sometimes a little bit more difficult for your body to metabolize. Everyone here has probably at least heard of whey protein. This is just one derivative of protein. It comes from a cow's milk, but it's synthesized, it's extracted, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing for our bodies to kind of break down and put to work for us. So as appealing as it might be to look at a nutrition label and say, wow, this is giving me an extra 35 or 40 grams of protein in my daily, and all I have to do is shake up this little scoop of powder in some water and drink it. That might not necessarily be the end result for everyone, because if it's something for your body to really go to work on breaking down, what's going to end up happening there is you're going to spend a fair amount of energy just to do that work. And what we're left with is what we call a net energy gain, not necessarily the energy gain of the full 160 calories coming from that whey protein, but maybe it costs us 30 or 40 calories just to break it down and put it to work. And the net energy gain then is the 160 calories of nutrient value less the amount of energy that we actually had to spend breaking it down. So when we're talking about macronutrient supplementation, there are two really big takeaway messages here. First of all, definitely always know what you're consuming. You'd be surprised to know that there's a lot of stuff out there that you can just walk into a store and buy that would have in it at least one or maybe even more substances that were actually banned if you were competing at a professional level. The second thing is please make sure that you're actually benefiting from its use. Um, a lot of the time, it's just a little bit of math, and maybe we go back to that first module. We're looking at a daily protein intake recommendation and how much we really need as athletes before we realize, wow, we really actually don't need to be consuming that daily protein shake after every time we work out. Is there a way we could easily make up this same macronutrient supplementation elsewhere in a regular diet? And if so, is this actually taking us above and beyond the maximum recommended daily intake anyway? There are a lot of athletes that I've worked with in the past that have kind of sat down and done that math and then realized, wow, this protein shake or this macronutrient supplement that I'm taking is actually pushing me over the limit on the maximum side. I don't actually need it. So if you remember this image from part one, from that first module on macronutrient, we're going back to looking at that post-exercise shake, and we're saying, is this really helping you? We look here and say, well, there's not a lot of refuel in here. There's hardly any at all. In fact, it's terrible. It's a terrible amount of refuel. We've got 5 grams of carbohydrate coming in. That's 20 calories of energy, and that's not enough to do much. And then we're looking here and saying, okay, well, if I only need 90 grams of protein over the course of today, do I really need to get 30 over the in a little shaker cup that probably doesn't even taste very good after I work out? Or can I find that 30 grams of protein in a more naturally occurring source of energy? Oftentimes the answer to that question is yes. I'm not saying for sure ditch the protein shake. There are a lot of athletes who would justifiably use macronutrient supplementation, and I applaud them if they've done the research and they've come to that conclusion on their own. I'm just saying, definitely do the research. Definitely do the research. All right. Let's look at micronutrient supplementation as well now. So when we talk about micronutrient supplementation, we're saying this is probably something that's maybe a little bit more necessary, a little bit more merited in the fast-paced environment that we all kind of find ourselves in as student athletes. Athletes who rely on micronutrient supplementation, they're doing so to kind of make up for a deficiency that's happening in their regular diet. Now, it could be a condition they have where their body's just not absorbing a vitamin or mineral at the rate that it should be. It could also be because their diet isn't necessarily allowing them to find sources of that particular vitamin or mineral in rich enough doses. So these would include things like multivitamins, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there right now watching this who would definitely put their hand up saying, yeah, I take a multivitamin, a vitamin capsule, or a concentrated vitamin or mineral like a vitamin B12 or an iron supplement. And then there are also things like micronutrient rich smoothies and juices out there that boast having fairly high bioavailability. Bioavailability is basically a fancy word for how well your body actually absorbs that dose that you're taking in. So when I'm talking about something being highly bioavailable or having a higher bioavailability rating, it's because I take an iron supplement that provides me with 10 milligrams of iron, and my body actually absorbs 9 of those 10 milligrams. That's high bioavailability. Whereas I might take another micronutrient supplement where I get 4,000 IUs of vitamin D, but it's not very bioavailable, and my body only absorbs a third of that amount. So it's really important before taking a micronutrient supplement as an athlete to make sure that you're at very first making a valid assessment of whether or not you even need it. And so if we can identify that area of need, it's going to happen through the medical pathway. We've had some blood work done. We've consulted with a nutritionist, and we've talked about our current diet and the way we eat and things that we're lacking or symptoms that we're having. And there's been an identified need for an increase in a specific micronutrient. And if we have a micronutrient deficit and then a prescription for a fix to that micronutrient deficit, that's when we're looking for for a change, right? And if we can't make that change in our diet, that's when we might be looking for some help from a micronutrient supplement. So for most people, eating a diet that's rich in whole foods with a variety of plant-based options and lean sources of protein, we're going to balance our micronutrient intake fairly nicely. Again, regular blood work testing is probably the most commonplace method for athletes to decipher whether or not they're in need of micronutrient supplementation. This process validates whether or not athletes should be taking something like this, or whether it's not just a complete waste of resources. So if something like an intervention from a dietitian or a doctor is necessary, this is when you might be prescribed even if something even a little bit stronger, like an over-the-counter supplement, or even from time to time we hear about athletes having transfusions or injections to really boost a micronutrient value. This is fairly rare though. So if we're looking at a micronutrient supplementation, no different from the macronutrient level, please make sure you know what's in it. If we look at something like this is a pretty loaded micronutrient or a multivitamin here. If you look at the percentage sign DV, it's saying the percentage of your daily value here. So you can see that in this particular case, if we look at all of the essential vitamins and essential minerals, there are a lot of categories that are above the 100% mark, basically making the assumption that somebody taking this micronutrient supplementation is getting almost no micronutrition from their regular diet. This is not a free pass to eat whatever kind of garbage food that you feel like, because you're getting all the micronutrition you need from a supplement. In fact, as nice as this looks, I want to go back to that word bioavailability. And I'd be the first one to suggest that even though I'm getting 100% of my recommended daily value of vitamin B6 and 166% of my recommended daily value of vitamin B12, I'd be hard pressed to believe that this particular supplement or anyone that boasts it has 166% of your daily value is actually bioavailable to provide you with that full 166% at the very end of the day. So please don't think of a micronutrient supplementation as a free pass to neglect the way you're eating and balancing out your diet. Please make sure that diets are still very micronutrient rich. Micronutrient supplements like a multivitamin, a B12, or an iron supplement can certainly be helpful, especially in athletes who find they are deficient. But please find out that you're deficient first before just going down the road and taking something like this. And that's the end of part 4. And that's the 4th and final module in our Nutrition for Athletes 101 course. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've taken something away from this. I'd strongly encourage anyone who's done all 4 modules to, at this point, maybe work on something like that meal plan that I demonstrated in the nutrient timing module. There are some cool meal planning templates that are on the Stronger BCSS blog. If you visit strongerbcss.ca and you check out the blog section of the site, you can scroll through some older blog posts and you'll find a template for daily meal planning. And it's a really cool Excel spreadsheet. It's got some pre-formulated stuff in there that can really help you kind of budget energy and decide how you're going to kind of plant energy over the course of your day. And it was a really cool assignment that we did a couple years ago with a couple of fitness-based phys ed classes. And I would definitely encourage anyone who's interested to check that out and play around with it a little bit. It's pretty fun. As always, any questions or concerns, please get in touch with me. My email is up there on the slide. You can also reach out to me through the site, strongerbcss.ca. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.